Oh, what is happening, everyone? Welcome to the Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. Weird day for me. First off, I again have a different microphone, so let me know if the audio is strange. Secondly, just let me know how the audio is. Secondly, I am late. I'm like 15 minutes late. Blame my boy Aircraft Sparky, who will be on here in a minute. I was just on the phone with him. We were just shooting the shit, talking about debates we have coming up and stuff like that. So, running a little late. It's been crazy. I'll explain my situation here a little. Suffice it to say, normally I would be at home with my lovely wife and my fantastic son, and I would be streaming from my home office. Did I blow you up? My voice a little, Is my microphone blowing out a little? It looks like it might be on my end. I can turn it down a little if it sounds like it's blowing out. Just someone let me know if the audio quality's fine. So I bought this cheapo mic, at Walmart. Okay, it's good. So 22 minutes and your lasagna will be done. Oh, man. That sounds wonderful. So, I'll explain as vaguely as I can. So for those that don't know, I do home health care. When I'm at work, I'm basically at work. I get to clock out sometimes, but I'm at work, you know. Unfortunately, my coworker has bronchitis, and so he was unable to come in. So here I am. It's a weird thing, and it's very difficult on a marriage because my wife basically, is the sole parent while I'm at work. So I leave Sunday night. I'm not there Sunday night, late night, and then Monday, Tuesday, and then I get home Wednesday afternoon around 2:33. That's a lot. She's basically stay-at-home mom by herself to, a near 2-year-old. And so she's really counting on me to come home on Wednesday. And so when I have to call her because I get text at 5 a.m., hey, by the way, your shift's not coming in. You're stuck there. It sucks. It sucks for her. It sucks for me. On top of all that, I have a new washer-dryer unit coming tomorrow. And I was supposed to be home to, when the delivery guy gets there to help him bring it inside and then set that up. It is similar to an oil rig job in that it's like block shift. I think that I should be home before that gets delivered tomorrow. Supposedly, there's someone coming in to relieve me. But, So I apologize. I know that I told everyone I would be streaming from home and you would get to see my beautiful face, but that's unfortunately not the case. This is one of the reasons that it's difficult for me to sort of grow as a channel, because the nature of my job and the nature of being a dad is that stuff comes first. Like my family comes first, and then my work comes second, and streaming comes third. It's not that I don't like the streaming. I love streaming. It's just, streaming's not keep my kid in diapers. So when work says, dude, you gotta stay, you gotta stay. There's nothing you could do about it. And in addition to that, I'll be very vague about this, but there's been a bug going around sort of my workplace and around my town. It is not COVID related. It is stomach related. And it's been very difficult. It got me. The bug got me. So I was like, I had to make sure I was always within, quick walk distance to the restroom, not to get too disgusting or graphic with it there. So I have done very little preparation. Last night, I unfortunately wasn't able to stream because of that. And then tonight, I didn't do much preparation, but I have to stream tonight. I probably will be streaming tomorrow night, and then Friday I'm taking off. What's up? Stardust is debating at DebateCon. Oh, good for her. So, just to give you an idea of what's coming up here, I will be streaming tomorrow night. I should be. Friday I'm taking off because I have to sleep. And then Saturday at 7 a.m., which I believe Saturday night. Do we turn our clocks back Saturday night? Is that true? Yeah. Aftershock's helping me set my show up. Aftershock, we were talking about dates. You realize we have 2 a.m.s, right? So Saturday night going into Sunday morning, 2 a.m. Sunday morning, I think we set our clocks back an hour. So that's an extra hour? Oh boy. So this is going to be a 25-hour stream is what it's going to be. Talk about a night. Yeah. Maybe we'll have something special for that second 2 a.m. hour. I'll be late. Need some coffee and Diet Mountain Dew for that one. So Saturday, the big stream, the 2,000 subscriber goal, push for the midterm elections, 24-hour extravaganza. Now, that's going to be Saturday. I hope you all tune in throughout the day. You know, wake up, have your bagel and grapefruit, listen to my beautiful voice, see my beautiful face, go for your morning jog or whatever, you know. I don't know what all you get into. Crisco will go fishing, come back, turn it on, I'll still be on. You know, get your PJs on, you know, lay down for bed, get your phone out, I'll still be on. Should be good. Yeah, I'm at 23 subs. Awesome. You guys are the best. Yeah, we got some great guests. Some that agree with me, some that don't. Should be a lot of fun. So, however, if I can ask for a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Understanding, I guess. After that Saturday stream, I'm definitely not streaming Sunday. Maybe Monday, definitely Tuesday. I got some stuff lined up Tuesday night, election night. So I'll definitely stream then. And then I'm taking the rest of the week off. Me and my wife got a hotel with my man, Hank, and we have a bunch of fun stuff lined up. We're going to a kids museum. We're going to an aviary. We're going to go back to the zoo, I think. We're going to visit some friends. This will all be in Pittsburgh, by the way. I'll be out in Pittsburgh. And it's centered around my son. As people know, my son broke his leg. He's had his cast off for now about 3 weeks. He's doing great. But we have to go back in for our final checkup. So that's going to be Thursday. So Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, I will not be around next week. Not this week here, but next week. So hopefully I'm going to put my big push in. I'm going to do Thursday stream, Saturday 25 hours, I guess. And then Tuesday night, and then I'll be taking the rest of the time off. So find other great streamers. Maybe Aftershock will stream. Aircraft Sparky will probably be streaming. You know, hit me up. I'll give some suggestions Saturday or Tuesday night for streams you could watch in my stead. I'm all about sharing the wealth, man. Rooting for the Phillies? Absolutely rooting for the Phillies. You know, screw the Stros, the cheating Stros. I'll be honest, when it comes, I like the Pittsburgh sporting teams because that's where I'm from, kind of from around that area. If it's not a Pittsburgh team, then I'm always rooting for sort of, kind of the underdog. The team that hasn't really won many championships lately, so screw the Stros, I'll root for the Phillies. I kind of was hoping the Padres would have won of the teams that we're in, but I didn't see the Pens this past week. I've heard they've been not as... The first week they looked really good, but... I gotta be honest with y'all. I don't watch as many sports as I used to. Part of it's sort of the woke nature of like, you know what, I'm just tired. I watch sports to escape from reality. I didn't want to be bludgeoned over the head with, you know, all of that stuff. So, but I didn't fully boycott. Most of it's just being a parent. You know, I was the type of dude that Mike Cernovich picks on. It was like every Sunday, man, I was watching the games from Sunday morning to Sunday night, the football games. I loved it. Like, you know, and now it's like, I might catch 4 games a year. Kyrie apologized and donated $500,000. Yay, they got him. So... But that's the plan. That's the plan coming up. We got some great guests. I'll be able to announce. First off, I gotta say, impromptu. Again, saving my ass is my friend Aftershock. You guys have no idea. Aftershock's been incredibly generous to me and the channel and the community for basically nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean he hasn't received any money. It's not like he's like, oh, robnoerr, I'm getting that good robnoerr clout. He does it because he's a good guy. And, I streamed here Monday and I was like, 24-hour stream. I don't know, maybe I'll get guests, maybe I won't. It might just be me for 24 hours. That's cool too. And Aftershock immediately reached out and was like, you want me to help you get some guests? I said, sure. So he set up a schedule. He reached out. The other person that's helping is Danabo, who I really like Danabo. I really do. I have nothing bad to say about him. They've basically, and BPF from The Crucible, Andrew, they set most of it up. They set up a schedule. They got guests. I did very little. So I can't thank, especially Aftershock, who spearheaded it, even more than the other two. I can't thank him enough. It's incredibly generous, and hopefully it'll be a good show. BPF will be there, Counterpoints, Rachel Wilson, James from Modern Day Debates. We're going to have Fabian Liberty's going to be coming on. I think Pisco's coming on. I think Dylan Burns will be coming on. And then we have some other guests that haven't confirmed, but that are looking. In addition to that, I got some fill-in people that could call in anytime during the day if we want. So like my friend Carlos, Todd Bartley, who's a journalist out here in Pennsylvania in Williamsport. We're trying to get maybe like the people we're talking about that I just mentioned there, they're going to be coming on for like an hour or so at least a piece. I'm trying to see if I could get throughout the day like some 15-minute calls from candidates. Particularly would love to get Doug Mastriano, who's a candidate for governor. Now, he's done my show 3 or 4 times, so there's a possibility. Now, one of his team members apparently reached out to someone I know and said that he's very booked up, so it's a long shot. Also, I reached out to Jack Posobiec. I thought that would be cool, seeing as how he's in Pennsylvania here. So, but the theme of the night, I'll debate, clearly some people aren't going to agree with me. Pisco's not going to agree with me. Dylan Burns isn't going to agree with me. And the guests will talk about what the guests want. But the overarching theme, the way I'm going to steer is, why should we be electing Republicans? And let me say here, let no one get it twisted. Do I kiss Republicans' asses? No. Do I call them out all the time? Yes. As soon as the election's over, will my focus shift to holding Republicans accountable if they won? To make sure that they do things that are worthwhile to this country? Yes, that will be the change of my focus. Thank you, Maurice. $10 super chat says this should get you a cheesesteak in Philly. Thank you so much. I've never had an authentic Philly cheesesteak. I've had the rip-offs not in Philly, But that's going to be the focus. So, yeah, I know there's going to be people that are like, Dr. Oz kind of sucks. Yeah, you're probably right. I'm still going to do everything I can to push people. But my focus, 2 days before the election, is the Democrats are worse. Get the Republicans elected and then hold their feet to the fire. That's where I'm going. So, I know I'll be accused of like, oh, Rob must love all these rhinos. Oh, Rob, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I'm saying. Also, there's a good crop. Some of the Republicans, or most hopeful I've been around, Mastriano would include in there. Blake Masters, Kerry Lake. Even people like J.D. Vance. I think these are good candidates. The Arizona crop of Republicans looks great. The Florida folks with DeSantis look great. So that's what to look forward for that program. So I think it should be fun. We'll see. 25 hours now that I realized that we set our clocks back Sunday night. Hilarious. That last hour will drag ass, I'm sure. Yeah, I can't wait to vote either. So I will be voting early Tuesday. That's for damn sure. Tuesday night, I'm going to be on with my friend Let's Be Frank. He's got a show with some bigger people. And they're going to bring me on from like 8 to 9, I think. Talk about the election. So Should be good. We can talk about the election a little tonight. I thought there's a lot of topics to talk about. Monday, a story had broke Monday that I was unable to really read. And I got to be honest, my week at work's been brutal. Listen, we're going to get our community to grow. My channel's going to grow. Come New Year here, I'm going to start pumping out content. I really am, even before the New Year. That's the plan. I'm going to start being consistent. I'm going to pump out more content. I'm going to do my best to reach out to bigger creators, to get on some shows like Tim Pool's show. I will get there, and my channel's going to grow. But, until then, all the support you guys can give me helps. Hopefully, my channel would grow big enough to where I wouldn't have to work 70 hours a week, and then I would have more time to put into this. But, family first, and right now I have to work 70 hours a week, thanks to Joe Biden, to make ends meet. So, I'm not missing any meals, and so far so good, and I'm very lucky that I have the opportunity to work so much overtime, because a lot of people don't. So, But your support is always appreciated, even if it's just, thank you, Galil, even if it's supporting me getting a Philly cheesesteak sub. Hey, I had a pollster call me yesterday, which was interesting. I've never had that happen in my life. I answered the phone before I got to look. It said spam, but it looked like a number that was sort of local. And it was a woman who, I don't mean to be rude, but she didn't speak very good English. And so I was like, okay, what's this? And she's like, do you mind if we ask you a few questions? I said, sure. And the poll was, I could tell what it was. It was hired from a libertarian that's running here in Pennsylvania, is what it was. I could tell. Because it was all about the Second Amendment. And so it asked if I was going to vote, and I said yes. And it asked if I would be voting for Dr. Oz and Mastery, or Dr. Oz specifically, I think it said. And I said yes. And it asked if I thought the Second Amendment was important, and I said yes. And then it was like, did you know that the Libertarian candidate, is complete Second Amendment, against all restrictions of firearms, but Dr. Oz has said, I was like, I am aware of that. And they were like, do you think that the Second Amendment will impact the reason that you vote? I said, sure. And they were like, okay. And that was it. But that was the first poll that I'd ever been part of, which I thought was interesting. And it also asked what my highest area of education was. And I told him I have a graduate degree. And she didn't know what that was. So I was like, master's degree, graduate school. And she was like, oh, okay, I see that option, is what she said. So she seemed like a nice lady, though. I did that. I used to call people for Trump's team. I called hundreds of people. It was kind of ridiculous. Like, the questions were just like, are you going to vote? I didn't get to interact with people, really. It sucks. That type of work sucks. But when you you go to these Republican meetings and you're like, I'd like to help with this election, that's the type of shit they'll have you do. They are not like, well, what's your skill set? What's your knowledge of this? They don't give a shit about that. They're like, can you put up yard signs, knock on doors, and basically robocall people? That's what they all want. Wasn't for me, And of course, I told everyone the story that, they said that they would hire me for a small amount of money full time, but I had to stop my channel. And I said, nope, no thanks. Yeah, the Biden speech tonight. I caught just some of the highlights. I've been really busy at work here, but it was just more fear-mongering, right? Rabble, rabble, rabble. The Republicans don't trust the results of elections. Like we don't ever. Rabble, rabble, rabble. I wonder why. My distrust of authority is not a malfunction with me. I'm not to blame. The authority's to blame. The reason I don't trust teachers' unions, for example, isn't because there's something in me when I was born to say, you know what, I think I won't trust teachers' unions. To the contrary, I didn't really know anyone in a teachers' union, but I knew a lot of teachers, and some were good and some were bad. But most of the teachers that I went to in my little public school, I didn't think were evil. I didn't think were horrible people. Some of them were just disinterested, or some weren't that good at their job. But no one was really bad. It's pretty normal education, I thought. When I was leaving high school, I don't think I would have said, oh, you know who I hate? The teachers' unions. The reason I don't like the teachers' unions is because as I've become an adult and I've seen the indoctrination that's going on with children, I see that the teachers' union are pushing for that and a bunch of other left-wing causes over again. That particularly ramped up when they were pushing for lockdowns, when all science told us that locking down children would be an epic disaster, which it was. That's why I don't like the teachers' unions. I wasn't born hating the FBI. It's that I've seen them lie and engage as a Gestapo over and over. Same with the CIA. Same with politicians in general. Don't feel bad and let them browbeat you. Oh, these people don't trust these authority figures. Yes, you're right, I don't. And that's their fault. When a bunch of health experts signed off saying COVID's bad, but you know what's worse? Racism. So you're not allowed to go to work, and you can't go visit your parents in the nursing home, and you can't have a funeral or a wedding for anyone in your family. Some places you can't go to church, and you can't go to the Trump rally, and you can't go to Sturgis, and you can't go to like open air events like ball games. Can't do any of that. And sometimes you can't even go to the park, the public park. But you know what you can do? You can go march with a couple 100,000 people at a rally that'll end up in places being lit on fire. You can do that, because racism. Okay, I no longer trust those experts. When 47 former Intel officials, including former heads of the NSA and the CIA, come out and say the Hunter Biden laptop story is Russian disinformation, and now we know that was clearly bullshit designed to interfere in the 2020 election, it's not my fault I don't trust them. It's their fault. They did it, not me. Yeah, teachers' unions probably more of a cause of systemic racism than anything else in this country. Scott Adams talks about that a lot. So I'm sorry. You know, I saw Biden said again tonight, 2020, what do you call it, the 220 election. My God, the gaffes this guy's made just this week alone. Unbelievable. The 220 election, you know, people are questioning it, but it's the most secure ever. That's bullshit. It's just bullshit. Let's break down that statement for a minute. What does secure mean? What do they mean when they say secure election? What are they saying? That's not just saying that there was no cheating. Secure election would mean all of the following. There was no cheating. It wasn't grotesquely infected with mistakes. That's what a secure election is. So, for example, let's assume we had a world where there was no cheating. That somehow human beings are completely moral beings and they would never lie or never cheat. And in that system, they have an election. And so we know the amount of fraud is 0%. That is something that's never happened, by the way, in any election. Hell, at your local school board election, there's probably a small amount of cheating. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say no cheating. No cheating occurred. Okay. None. 0%. Can there still be human error? Well, of course. Will we consider that a secure election if there were mass amounts of human error? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So, for example, let's say, this is just hypothetical now, mind you. Let's say we radically changed the way we voted 6 months before a big election. And let's say a bunch of places that used to not really have mail-in voting all of a sudden decided they would have mail-in voting. And let's say we'll continue to engage that there was 0% cheating. 0. Right? But 10% of the mail-in ballots are rejected for some reason. Would we call that the most secure election ever? I don't think so. Take away everything you think you know about Dominion voting machines and ballot harvesting. Let me see if I can find something real quick. I used to have these numbers. So I'm on Brave. I use the search engine and browser Brave. DuckDuckGo sucks now, and I don't Google, so I'm braving. So this is the first thing that shows up on Brave. More than 1 million people. This is from USA Today. This is October 8th, 2020. So this is before the 2020 midterms. Right before. More than 1 million people could lose their vote on November 3rd. That's the best case scenario. Rejected ballots in the 2020 election battle between President Donald Trump and Biden could become the post-election focus. In a normal election year in any given state, hundreds or even thousands of absentee ballots get tossed for everything from late postmarks to open envelopes. North Carolina rejected 546 for missing witness signatures in the 2012 presidential race. Virginia tossed 216 in the 2018 midterms because they arrived in an unofficial envelope. Arizona discarded 1,500 and change for non-matching signatures. The 2020 election will not be normal. Jeez. 2020 election won't be normal. Well, that sounds bad. USA Today. Is that election denying? Little did the USA Today, this prediction would blow up in their face, right? Not only was the election, actually they're right, I guess, it wasn't normal. It was the most secure ever. They thought that 1 million people could lose their vote. It was almost zero. Absentee ballot rejections this November are predicted to reach historic levels, risking widespread disenfranchisement of minority voters and the credibility of election results. Columbia Journalism Investigations and PBS series Frontline Investigation found. Wait, so this almost sounds like it's the Democrats setting the narrative. Oh boy. Don't know if we can trust. At least 1.3 million absentee ballots could be tossed if half of the nation votes by mail. Discarded votes jumped to 1.55 million if 75% of the country votes absentee. In the latter scenario, more than 185,000 votes could be lost in Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, states considered key to capturing the White House. In the 2016 presidential election, there were 315,000 and change rejected ballots. Those numbers are conservative based on 2016 rejection rates, when fewer voters submitted absentee ballots. Record numbers of voters will be voting for absentee for the first time in 2020, and voters new to vote by mail are at greater risk of mistakes. If errors push the rejection rate up just 2%, about 2.15 million votes would be cast aside, roughly the population of New Mexico. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania rejected 60,000 votes in primaries earlier this year. Only a few thousand votes shy of President Trump's margin of victory. A result like this in November could cast doubt on who actually carried the key swing states, with the overall election hanging in the balance. Could trigger a chaotic welter of lawsuits and clashing conspiracy theories. CGI projects the three states could discard 45 to 66,000 votes in the presidential election. Confusion over rules and logistical problems with mail could create a toxic brew in close races, said Attorney Jarrett Berg. I'm concerned about an ideological bloodbath. Not everyone's equally likely to lose their vote. In 2016, rejection absentee ballots fell along racial, ethnic, and wealth divides. Asian Americans in California's Santa Clara County, New York City voters in largely black and Hispanic boroughs, and Arizona voters in counties with the lowest household income were all more likely to have their absentee votes jettisoned. In some counties, rejected votes in November will be a small fraction of the estimated 70 million absentee ballots cast nationwide. However, even infrequent problems could nevertheless wind up affecting substantial numbers of people. Assuming that everything goes fine 99.8% of the time, well, 0.02 of 70 million winds up being an awful lot of people. In New Hampshire, projected absentee ballot rejections are almost 12 times the vote margin of victory that sent Democrat Maggie Hassan to the Senate in 2016. In North Carolina, Roy Cooper, also a Democrat, won the government seat by just over 10,000, more than 8 times the number that could be lost in absentee. Discarded ballots don't automatically give either party an edge. It's true that in certain states, the number of discarded ballots could match or top Trump's margin of victory. In Michigan, for example, 11,000 to 16,000 votes could be rejected. But USA Today and CGI also projects 182 to 273,000 more votes could be tossed this year in counties won by Democrats. It's not the result of voter fraud, they found, but instead a byproduct of 200 million eligible voters navigating an often confusing voting process where simple mistakes can cost a vote. Further, the rules are shifting. Lawsuits are driving down-to-the-wire changes on how to vote by mail, heightening the risk that even well-informed absentee voters will turn in a defective ballot. Oh, so now the rules are changing going into the 2020 election. Makes the likelihood for mistake much higher. For months, the political groundwork has been laid to challenge vote-by-mail results. Attorney General William Barr said in September wrongly claimed 1,700 mail ballots had fraudulently been cast in Texas. Trump has decried absentee votes as rigged. It cost him in September. Rejecting one ballot is not rejecting just one vote, because a single ballot could have a dozen or more local state contests. Thousands of ballots rejected translates into hundreds of thousands of votes lost. Yet widespread ballot rejection is not inevitable. Election officials in almost every state cited missed deadlines for the majority of rejections in 2012, 16, and 18. Voters concerned over the slow postal delivery may be able to put their ballot in the drop box or bring it to a local elections office, depending on state rules. Also working voters' favor. Since 2016, new laws and court orders have led multiple states to offer voters a chance to fix ballot errors. Absentee rejections are projected to flood states featuring fierce political backgrounds, according to CGI. Las Vegas is expected to discard, and it just goes through a list. It impacts minority voters. Huh. Now, let's see. Let's see how many ended up. Now, you can't question it now. USA Today, that's a mainstream. They were saying in October, right before the 2020 election, they were saying, oh boy, it's going to be a clusterfuck. That's what they were saying. They're not even talking about fraud. They're just saying, man, there's going to be, if we're predicting millions of ballots. Thank you, ABBA. Appreciate the follow. Now they're saying, well, you can't look at any of that. It's funny. I didn't plan on talking about this, but this is amazing. One second. 1 second. Oh my goodness. One more thing. You never just... It's never easy, is it? Alright, I gotta do a little math here. Oh, math. Math is the worst. All right, ready? Let's go along with this. First, let's go back to what the USA Today predicted, right? We're going to go back to that article we just read. Oh, what's going on? All right, ready? It says, USA Today, more than 1 million people could lose their vote. That's the best case scenario. Absentee ballot rejections are projected to reach historic levels, risking widespread disenfranchisement. Predicts 1.3 million if half the country votes by mail. $70 million. We had a rejection rate in 2020 of about half what we saw in previous elections. Rejection rate under 1%. Georgia, the rejection rate, less than 5%. New Mexico, 5%. Arizona, less than it was 0.3%. Pennsylvania, look at the swing states. Wisconsin, 0.2% rejection. Pennsylvania, which I know intimately, 1.3%. Massively changed the way we voted. 1.3%. 46% of people cast their ballot through mail or absentee in the 2020 election. That's a total of 70 million and change ballots. Now the USA Today says, because the laws are changing and all that, they expect the best case scenario, 1 million people, ballots rejected. Instead, we have almost half that amount. Half of their projection. How do we explain that? Most secure election ever, though. Most secure. We're not even talking about fraud. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking just about... I'm supposed to believe when we had a pandemic... and we're basically doubling the amount of people that vote by mail, that all of a sudden, more than doubling, by the way, all of a sudden, the rejection rate's about half. A bunch of people for the first time voting by mail, and they nailed it. Bunch of states for the first time doing mass mail-in voting. They nailed it. No questions here. Most secure election ever, they say. How can that be? That's what Joe Biden's out there saying today. It's weird. They were all setting up. The USA Today was saying, oh boy, Democrats are going to be disenfranchised because how many ballots are rejected. There could be legal fights challenging the results of the election. But when they won, they're like, oh boy. Nothing to see here. Most secure ever. Remember, the big election that was right after the 2020 election was it was the mayor in New York. You remember? And Adams came out and was like, wait a minute, all the exit polling shows we're winning, but somehow we're not. And they were like, oh, election denier. And then they were like, whoopsie daisy, we accidentally ran tens of thousands of ballots that were test ballots through. Sorry about that. And you remember it took them weeks in New York to count all the ballots? Remember that? But you had to be like, well, the 2020 election was the most secure ever. Ignore all the elections you see subsequent to that are a clusterfuck. Ignore those. All we know for sure, this is all we know. The most secure election ever was 2020. Massively changed how we voted. But it was the most secure ever. That we know. Can't question that. It's abject garbage. Everybody knows it. You might say, yeah, there was probably increased ballot rejections, which there wasn't, surprisingly. Yeah, there was probably fraud. But I don't know that it was enough to tip the scales. That's a reasonable argument. I'll listen to that argument. But most secure ever? Bullshit. And that's how you know they're full of it. We just found out that a company named Konnech that was helping run elections all over this country was feeding their CEO of that company is now under arrest in California of all places for feeding a bunch of poll information to the government of China. Oh boy! Nothing to see here. Now, does that prove the election was stolen? No. But we should be allowed to question, especially when we massively change how we vote, and there's a lot of anomalies, like stop counting in the middle of the night, or 17 of 18 bellwethers going Trump's way, but he still loses. Or we massively change how we vote, which means everyone was predicting that we would see tons of ballots rejected, and yet we had half as many as normal. Twitch is crashing on people? I don't know. Someone explain to me how Brazil can run a national election with tens of millions of people voting and count the votes in one night. But in the United States, individual states with far less population and far less people voting than Brazil, they can't manage to do it for days? Well, it's all right, neighbor guy, no problem. What's going on? Matt's hard and racist? Yeah. Now let's talk about actual cheating. The Intercept puts out a good story this week. about the Department of Homeland Security, and this is stuff that I knew, right? I knew this. I've talked about this. But they have the actual emails, Freedom of Information Act request documents that they've received, text messages and emails, that now definitively prove, yes, the government, the Department of Homeland Security, was regularly meeting with the leaders of social media in order to censor stories that they didn't like, including stories surrounding COVID, stories surrounding the withdrawal of Afghanistan, stories surrounding the Russia-Ukraine war, and it's ongoing. We know that one agent in particular reached out to social media companies about the Hunter Biden laptop story, as Mark Zuckerberg admitted previously on Joe Rogan's show, and buried that story. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of that report because, unfortunately, I'm not at home, and I didn't have a chance to read through it as much as I would like. But you could go to the Intercept and you could find this story. And what I want to do is kind of talk to you about the gravity of this. Now, everybody knows, everyone, how damaging it would be if powerful institutions interfered in our elections. I know it. You all know it. But so do the Democrats. They know it. Right? That's why they are out there saying, oh my God, it would be so terrible if the world's richest man's interfere. Oh my God, he's controlling Twitter. Yeah, okay, sure. Well, we need to repeal Citizens United, money in politics. They're crafting the message. That's terrible. Russia, the Russians are interfering. They put $50,000 in ads in Pokemon Go and Facebook. That's literally an act of war, says some Democrat senators. That could tip the scales in an election. Now, all of this is an admission that powerful institutions can tip the scales of an election. So let's take that Russia claim. So for 4 years, we had to take seriously the idea that not only was Trump colluding with Russians and getting peed on by Russian hookers, but listen to this. Russians interfered in our democracy because they put $50,000 of ads on Pokemon Go and Facebook. Now, granted, half those ads weren't seen till after the election, and granted, half those ads were actually pro-democratic causes, but still, we had to run around with the hair on fire. That's interfering in our democracy. And one of the things that I was one of the first people I heard say way back in 2017 was, look, I don't have a problem with people that are concerned about foreign influence in our elections. That's something that you could legitimately be concerned about. Fair enough. I would ask that you be concerned on that on all sides, not just when it supposedly benefits Trump. For example, if, anyone in the Hillary camp was colluding with Russians to get dirt on Trump. Oh, wait, that did happen. It was accused with Trump. It didn't happen. With Hillary, it did. Oh, and the FBI went for it, too. Whoops. I guess Russia collusion doesn't matter anymore. But you want to know what's worse than Russia collusion? Let me just ask you straight out. Do you think Russians, using all of their KGB Soviet-era bullshit, do you think them crafting messages, filtering things through social media, through our media, picture that, and do you think that would have more of an influence in our elections than our FBI, media, and social media, or I guess the intelligence agencies in general, not just the FBI, working together to push the candidate of their choice? Which one do you think would have more influence and potential to swing an election in our country? Because it's not even close. Russia and China and Iran and North Korea, all of those countries combined would not be able to have the influence on our elections that a combination of our intel agencies, our media, and our social media, not to mention corporate America, the entertainment industry, etc. It's not even close. No matter how hard Russia tried, they probably weren't going to be able to get all of the mainstream media and social media outlets to prevent a story running that was damaging to Joe Biden. But our intel agencies could. They could do that. They could get Facebook and Twitter and YouTube to censor stories that they didn't like. Russia really couldn't. They could get the mainstream media outlets to cover the stories they wanted and to bury the ones they didn't. Russia can't do that. Neither can China. Well, maybe China a little. We're talking an election that was basically decided by around 50,000 votes. And we have proof positive that our intel agencies and the Department of Homeland Security was working in tandem with social media to shadow ban, outright ban, manipulate the algorithm so people couldn't see stories of issues critical of the party that they wanted to win. Now, all the people screaming about Pokemon Go ads in Russia, they're very silent now, aren't they? Now they're quite silent. Oh, well, where do you think they would be today? Imagine where they would be today if we found out that Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security was pressuring social media companies to censor stories critical of him. Now, Time Magazine told us a shadowy cabal was fortifying the election for Joe Biden. I saw today someone on The View said, another word for abortion is mercy. Another word for cheating an election is fortifying it. Oh yeah, they want amnesty, of course. Less gain on the mic, please. Send me money so I can get a better mic. I don't know how to turn down the gain. Of course, they work to influence foreign elections all the time. Now they're just doing it on our soil. Imagine being one of these lefties. Imagine being one of the Democrat bootlickers that I debate. Every institution's on your side. They're literally censoring people that disagree with you in the Biden administration. Literally. And still they claim to be the victim and think they're revolutionaries. And they still can't win the argument. No, it's so weird because 10 years ago even, if a story like this broke, imagine during the Bush years, right? Imagine if during the Bush years we found out that government agencies were pressuring media and, burgeoning social media companies to bury stories that were critical of Bush about, say, the Iraq War or the handling of Katrina or any other litany of things that they hated Bush for. It would have been the biggest story in the world. Wall-to-wall coverage on the main outlets. Now it's just like, How ironic is it that our alleged media, our alleged press, are the biggest advocates of censorship? When you listen to the press talk about themselves, right, they pat themselves on the back like at the White House Correspondents' Center and they go, we're the fourth estate. We speak truth to power. Without us, we're the voice of the people. Without us, the people wouldn't know what's going on. Technically right. That is why the press is important. Shame we don't have one. Or at least not in the traditional legacy media. Now they've gone from give the people a voice to silence the people. They've gone from speak truth to power to bury the truth for the powerful. So the guy, I think his name's Lee Fang, that broke the story, he goes on Tucker Carlson to talk about this story. Why choose Tucker? Does that mean he's a Trump supporter? Does that mean he loves Tucker Carlson? Not necessarily. I don't know what his political motivations are, nor do I care. I care if his story is accurate. And yet, it seems like our vaunted mainstream media, they were just caring that he went on Tucker. Well, why didn't Jake Tapper have him? Why didn't the New York Times call him? Why didn't Rachel Maddow? Oh, that's right. Because they're complicit. That's why. They all agree. They're all out there this week going, we can't have free speech on Twitter. We can't have that. That would be a disaster. So when that's the position you're coming from, is it any surprise that you're not going to cover his story? Oh, by the way, the government is pressuring all of these companies to censor. It's odd. I remember way back in the day debating people like Chud Logic on whether or not conservatives were censored more. And I said, government's involved, it's pressuring these companies. No. Everyone said, how many times have me and people like me said, this is occurring, we're called crazy conspiracy theorists, and then 6 months to a year later we find out, oh, okay, you were absolutely right, and they just say, well, it's not that big of a deal. Let's ignore that. Anyways, Ted Cruz went to Cancun. Both sides real interested in Paul Pelosi. By the way, I hope Paul Pelosi makes a speedy recovery. I really do. The conspiracy theorists right again. How am I right so often? Am I such a genius? No. Because they tell you what they're doing. You don't even have to look that hard. I mean, for God's sakes, they started a disinformation ministry. We're attempting to. You couldn't read between the lines of what that meant? They literally censor you for talking about things like the election and COVID. We know they censored the Hunter Biden laptop story. And no one said, geez, I wonder if the government had anything to do with this. Instead, they said, they're private businesses. They can do what they want. The First Amendment only applies to government. Well, there are problems with that anyways. But the surface level problem is, now we know the government was pushing to censor people. That seems to be a pretty direct violation of the First Amendment. And where are those people? As long as they're censoring their opponent's side, good. $40,000 to 50,000 votes decided the 2020 election. Almost every one of our government agencies putting their thumbs on the scale. Social media, working with them, put their thumbs on the scale. The media, working with them, put their thumbs on the scale. We're supposed to believe 50,000 Russians, or $50,000 from Russia to Pokemon Go and Facebook and ads could swing an election, but not that. Just like they don't give a shit. And here's the beauty. I'll be talking to Pisco on Saturday. I bring him up because he's such a good example of this, right? Here's someone that's in the law, is a lawyer, allegedly concerned about the rule of law, but didn't have shit all to say about the FBI using Russian-sourced, paid-for opposition research to spy on Trump. No problem here, no problem here, no problem here. And then later when you find out it happened, it's like, well, it's over and done with. Same here. Where's the accountability? Nothing. You think it's not going on right now in this election? You think there aren't government... I was reporting on... There were people that were filing lawsuits. I remember doing a show on this guy who had filed a lawsuit and was showing that Twitter... He had the communications between the government and Twitter that specifically wanted to censor him. And I was saying, like, this is incredible. That was months ago. They don't care because the system is benefiting them right now. All you have to do is watch the reaction to Elon Musk. Oh, I can't even see Key Lime's post anymore. It's a shame. It's a shame. Oh, someone redeemed the rap god thing. I unbanned him. No, I unbanned him. Yeah, I mean, so what are we supposed to expect coming into this election in 2022? Oh, our bad. Sorry the government was involved with social media and the media and censoring stories critical of one party and one administration. Our bad. Won't happen again. All we know is if our side wins, it's the most secure election ever. And if our side loses, clearly it was illegitimate because of voter suppression and etc., etc., etc. But both sides do it. When Trump loses, he said it was cheating, and when he wins, he doesn't. Yeah, that's right. Have you ever been banned or censored for complaining about Trump? Have Democrats been banned or censored for complaining about the 2016 election? What's up, Santo? How you doing? I don't seem to recall. I just want you to imagine the freak out. Just imagine just our little world here of left-wing streamers, right? Imagine the freak out if they found out that members of the administration, say the Department of Homeland Security, were directly in communications with places like Twitter or Twitch or YouTube or Google, saying, we don't like this left-wing streamer and what they're saying, you ought to ban them. Imagine the fucking freak out. But it happened to Alex Berenson, no problem. Happened to other right-wingers, no problem. Happened to specific stories, no problem. If people think their ideas are best, they should not need to cheat and put their thumbs on the scale in order for those ideas to win out. That's what's anti-democratic. That's what the fucking Democrats are doing. And not just the Democrats, the establishment in general. I don't need to censor people I disagree with. I don't want YouTube or Twitch or the government or Twitter censoring people I disagree with. As long as they're not doing grotesque things that are against the law, I don't give a shit. I just won't listen. I don't need our government spying on politicians I don't like based on bullshit opposition research. I don't need it. That's what they need. They have every institution on their side. Academia, the entertainment industry, media, social media, almost all of corporate America. Paying lip service to their side, and still it's not enough. Still, they have to cheer for the weight of the government putting their thumb on the scale of who they want elected. But don't worry. You just got to trust them. Just trust them. Now, I want to make it clear. I've called out when I think that stories I hear are garbage. Rob, but what about the Navy SEALs fighting in Germany at Dominion's company? And they're literally, as we speak, they're involved in a firefight, breaking into this warehouse owned by Dominion, getting the servers. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's a bullshit story. But Rob, there are, some 30 million registered voters, or, I don't even know the number. There's 10 million something registered voters in Wisconsin and 20 million voted. How do you explain that? Yeah, that didn't happen. So I'll call balls and strikes. If I see a story I think's bullshit, I'll call it out. I'm open to being proven wrong. I have been. Rarely. But the idea that I just have to trust these institutions that clearly fucking hate me and people like me, and are putting their thumbs on the scale, but I have to trust them implicitly, and if I don't, then I'm somehow an immoral person, is bullshit. It's not my fault I don't trust them, it's theirs. Now, I just showed you that article from the USA Today. There's going to be so many problems with the 2020 election. So many problems. Millions of low-income and minority voters are about to be disenfranchised because of the way we've changed our voting system. And these ballots will be rejected. Hillary Clinton said under no circumstance conceded. Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General, who's now running for governor of Pennsylvania, he said if all ballots are counted, no way Democrats could lose. No way Biden could lose. That's what he said going into the 2020 election. Saying the 2016 election was illegitimate over and over and over and over again. And then I'm supposed to believe as soon as they win, now it's like, now you can't question results. Can't question them. Is there any doubt in anyone's mind here? Any? That there will be mainstream Democrats questioning some of the specific elections if conservatives win big, if Republicans win big. They're already doing it. Oh, well, we don't like the fact that there are people watching drop boxes. Well, they wouldn't have to watch drop boxes if you actually were doing what you should be doing, which is to have cameras on them and make the footage available. But you didn't. Over and over in places with drop boxes, cameras were malfunctioning or they didn't save the tapes. Now, the same people telling us, but if people were there, that's intimidation, had no problem when there were places with Black Panther type people standing outside of polling places. What Pittsburgh will do on that case is he said, okay, it was bad. They fired people. What more do you want? That's what he said. And what he'll do is, like, every time I debate him, he'll say, well, now I think I found more information and it's not that bad. You'll see. He'll be on Saturday. We'll hash it out again. But screw our little sphere. What nationally? Where are the lawyers? Where are the free speech? Where's the ACLU? Okay, the Intercept just broke a pretty fucking big story. They got the receipts. The government was pressuring social media companies to censor people. Where are all the free speech? Oh, that's right. Orange Man bad. That's right. That's where they are. Orange Man bad. They're yelling that the guy that broke the story went on Tucker. That's what they're pissed about. How dare you? That's the enemy. Tucker's the enemy. You can't go there. I'm probably not going to read a random article. It's probably not a good time right now. I'll be wrapping up here in about 10-15 minutes, so. It's always the same thing. When it's happening in real time, deny it's happening, and then later when it's proven true, say, well, we're not going to really talk about it. It was a long time ago. They're shameless. Absolutely shameless. Again, I don't know how many times I could say this. Granted, I have a small platform, but still, to this day, today, if I go on Twitter, the story I'm hearing the most about is Paul Pelosi. Was he really in his underwear? Was it a gay lover? I don't know. I said from the get-go, I'm not going to comment on this shit because it changes so rapidly, and I don't have a problem talking about, like, well, they're gaslighting us. Politico, for example, reported that a third person opened the door, and then the next day said people were bleeding, disinformation that a third person opened the door. You reported it. I get that people want to talk about it, but all it is a red herring. That's all it is. The real story of it is the Democrats want you to believe, Joe Biden's out there today, Barack Obama was talking about it, they're out there saying conservatives' rhetoric is leading to this, and they didn't say fuck all when Steve Scalise got shot about Democrat rhetoric, or when Rand Paul got attacked, or when Lee Zeldin got attacked, or there was an assassination attempt on Kavanaugh. Didn't have shit to say then. That's it. That's the only part of the story that matters. Fuck you. We're not taking you serious. Eat shit. I'm going to continue to complain about Pelosi. I'm going to continue to complain about the corrupt Democrats. I hate violence. I condemn it. The first thing I said in the Paul Pelosi, I don't give a shit if I hate Nancy Pelosi. I don't know shit about Paul Pelosi. I don't wish anyone to have a skull fracture, including people I disagree with politically, like Nancy Pelosi, let alone her husband. It's terrible. I don't care. It doesn't matter if he was engaged in a drug deal or some sort of adulterous relationship. It doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, that amount of violence is completely horrible. And he has my sympathy for going through that. That's the end of the story for me. I don't get, if it was politically motivated, so that doesn't mean people that are correctly calling out the horrible nature of the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi are responsible. And maybe you would listen to that criticism if the Democrats weren't inciting fucking left-wing violence by their own, not my standard, by their standard, and totally ignoring it. To the point where Vosh can call for shooting Patriot Prayer people, literally shooting them, after one of them was murdered by a lefty, call for the shooting of them, and then put posts on Twitter that say, oh my God, Republicans, stochastic terrorism, oh my God, the Republicans want the violence. And it's not helping with the election. No one gives a shit. The voters that haven't made up their mind right now, they're not like, oh, Paul Pelosi. They're like, I can't afford gas. Crime's out of control in my neighborhood. The border is porous. Lockdowns fucked over my family. That's what they want to hear about. But instead, right into the run-up of the 2022 election, what's the big story? Paul Pelosi, do you have underwear? And by the way, I'm gonna say it right now. I ain't picking on that guy. I think it's pretty fucking despicable to pick on him. I really do. I'm not super pissed. I'm just saying. It's as bad taste as it was when they picked on Rand Paul for being attacked. That's how I feel. You haven't heard me do it. You wouldn't know that if you go on Twitter and hear people saying, I'd like to see robnoerr condemn this attack. I'm not going to do shit because you ask me or tell me to do. I don't have to prove myself to those people. Why? Because what I say speaks for itself. I've been condemning all forms of political violence as long as I've had a channel. I've condemned right-wing violence. I've condemned left-wing violence. I've not made fun of victims. I've not celebrated people's deaths. So I'm not going to listen to the people that do that make demands of me. I do like to eat, that's true. Hey y'all, we just found out definitive proof that the government's forcing social media companies to censor you. What's that? You're more interested in a joke about Paul Pelosi's underwear? Good for you. Don't be shocked when things don't come out the way you wanted. Now, I still predict, and we'll talk about this, obviously, Saturday, the whole show is going to be about the election. I do think Republicans win the House and the Senate. Even if you're someone that believes cheating occurs, cheating is only effective in the margins. Like, for example, let's say robnoerr's running against Aftershock for governor, right? And Aftershock, let's say 5 million people vote, and Aftershock gets 80% of the vote. It would be nigh impossible for me to cheat and make up that many votes. But let's say Aftershock gets 52% of the vote and I get 48. Then it's more reasonable to think that cheating could affect. You understand what I'm saying? I never understood the doomer, oh, well, they're just going to cheat anyway, so I'll stay home. Like, now they don't have to cheat, moron. And by the way, YouTube, I'm not saying cheating's occurring. I'm just saying in the hypothetical mind of the people that think that cheating occurs, it'd be stupid not to vote. It's dumb. Same if you're a Democrat and you believe voter suppression. Okay, well, so voting's stupid because of gerrymandering and voting suppression. That's stupid. You can argue against voter suppression and gerrymandering and still get out and vote. Yeah, I hear you, Ray J. Again, I can't, after the election, if Republicans do win, then my job is holding their feet to the fire, which I will do. As I've done in the past, as I did with Trump and the feckless Republican House and Senate for his first 2 years. Nothing's guaranteed. Who knows what could happen on Election Day? All I know is this. If Democrats win, I won't be allowed to question it. But if Republicans win, I could come on YouTube every day and say, I think there were problems. And when the most powerful tools for public dialogue are that biased, we got a real fucking problem. The reason they need almost total control of these institutions and the public narrative is because their ideas are so bad. I've debated their ideas on the merits. I will continue to do so when I feel like it. But some of their ideas are so bad, you don't even have to wade into the minutia. Well, let me explain to you why we need to be talking about sexuality to 6-year-olds. How about no? How about we just see what the American people think? How about that? I'm more than happy for that to be the Democratic messaging. So be it. There was a poll that came out. Again, take all polls with a grain of salt. But this one was talking about the biggest swing coming to Republicans is from Hispanics and suburban women. That's huge. What will they do if they don't have those groups? All right. Has anyone got anything specific they would like to talk about for the next 5 minutes or so? Otherwise, I'm just going to raid someone and call it an early night. Again, I'm sorry I wasn't at home to do my normal show with my camera. I do apologize for that, but work's work. So we'll raid my friend Aircraft Sparky here this evening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. I know my numbers suck tonight. I get it. Doing these audio shows suck. I totally get it. But we will be getting better. If people send me all their money, how much do I need? I would have said 3 years ago, if I was making $100,000 a year streaming, I could quit my job and just stream. Under Biden's economy, it'd have to be more like 6 million. But, I'm sure we'll get there. So, I do thank you all. You all mean a lot to me. Should be streaming tomorrow, Friday taking off, and then the big 24-hour, 2,000 subscriber goal stream will be Saturday, 7 a.m. So join me then. It should be absolutely fantastic. So thank you all so much. I appreciate all of you. Please enjoy this raid of Aircraft Sparky, and as always, have a good one.